County, I've had the opportunity to work for all types of schools, urban, suburban, rural. And in that time, I found that what parents want in each of these communities is really similar. It's the same. There's so much more that unites us than divides us. But I'm not here to talk to you about what adults want. I promised my kids I would talk to you about what they want. A future to believe in. A future that's more than standardized tests. A future that's more than a gig economy. A future that's more than a GoFundMe account for healthcare. And in all my years teaching, there's been one politician who has been rock solid, who has not wavered, who has not faltered in his commitment to the next generation. In fact, this is a person who plants seeds for trees whose shade he will not sit in. Because I'm here to tell you our children are not okay. They're giving into nihilism. They're giving into despair. And the only cure for those things is hope. The only cure for those things is a plan. And I believe that Senator Sanders is the person who has that plan, which is why I fought for him in Philadelphia. Which is why I will continue to fight for him now. Because our kids, your kids, the next statistic could be my daughter. The next statistic could be your child, and their futures are too important. So I want to thank you all for coming out. I want to welcome you to our beautiful city and, feel the burn. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Please welcome to the stage healthcare activist Amy Vilela.
Hello everyone, I'm Amy Vilela. I am a businesswoman, a military spouse, a healthcare justice activist, and a mother. And I am so excited to be here today to help welcome Bernie to Nevada. In 2018, inspired by the movement of Senator Sanders sparked, I ran for Congress here in Nevada. So I know a thing or two about spreading the political revolution in the Silver State. Like so many others, I didn't become involved politically until I had to. I didn't get involved in the process politically until tragedy struck me and my family. You see, almost 4 years ago now, I lost my daughter, Shalyn, to our nation's barbaric healthcare system. She was only 22 years old. She was Black. She was on birth control. She had sickle cell trait, and she was recovering from an injury to her leg. All major risk factors for a blood clot. One day, soon after traveling 22 hours from Kansas City home to Las Vegas, her leg became swollen and painful. I was out of town on business, so she went to the emergency room with her boyfriend. With one simple question, her fate was sealed. They asked her, "Do you have health insurance?" Having recently changed jobs, she was confused and mistakenly replied, "No." Even after begging to be treated for her 8 out of 10 pain and for diagnostic testing, they told her, "Go get insurance and see a specialist. We're not a doctor's office. 2 weeks later, I held Shalyn in my arms unconscious as she took her last breath. She died that day of a pulmonary embolism. Her life was cut short because instead of performing the routine test that would have detected the blood clot, they performed what is known as a wallet biopsy. They decided that their bottom line was more important than my daughter's death. And a part of me died that day with Shalyn. It was the biggest tragedy of my life. But I have to tell you, the real tragedy, brothers and sisters, is that this happens all the time. Shalyn was my everything. And for months I grieved. I simply didn't know what to do with myself. But then I learned about an old Democratic socialist from Vermont who thought he could be president. He was talking about all type of crazy ideas that the news anchors and the TV pundits said would never happen. Social justice, racial justice, economic and climate justice, healthcare justice, healthcare justice. He said, no one in America should die because they don't have insurance. In 2016, Bernie Sanders helped me give my life purpose again. I am a healthcare warrior. And my mission is clear. When 35,000 people die every year in America simply because they do not have health insurance, my mission is clear. We need Medicare for all. And I am forever grateful to Bernie for bringing this message to me and to the American people. Bernie Sanders' mission is clear. In 2016, Bernie Sanders boldly told us, healthcare is a human right. Today, 72% of the American people support Medicare for all. And it doesn't end there. On issue after issue, Bernie is not only leading, he's changing the terms of the debate. He's upended American politics and shown us that what we thought was impossible, what we were told was too much pie in the sky, is not only possible, it's inevitable. Bernie showed us that when we come together for the common good, nothing is impossible. If we come together, we will win. If we come together, we will have Medicare for all. If we come together, we will have college for all. If we come together, we will have a Green New Deal, $15 an hour, and a federal jobs guarantee. If we come together, we will have justice for all. And sisters and brothers, if we come together for the political revolution and do the impossible, Bernie Sanders will win the Nevada caucus. And he will be elected the next president of these United States of America.
Please welcome to the stage, co-chair of the Bernie Sanders presidential campaign, Senator Nina Turner.
Henderson! Wow. Loving you too, darling. Amy did that, didn't she? Henderson, it's such a pleasure and an honor to be here this afternoon. And I just want to shout you out in the strongest possible way. There's a quote that comes to mind for me that Congresswoman Barbara Jordan once said. She said, "What the people want is simple. They want an America as good as its promise." And Henderson, that is what the life of Senator Bernie Sanders has been all about, helping to build an America that is as good as its promise. So can a sister go into her purse real quick? I'm feeling all kinds of way, Henderson. Before I get started, though, I got a chance to meet, and I know I see babies out here, and I want you to look around and see the babies and the younger people here. Now, we are fighting this fight for all generations, but to Georgia, who is 2 years old, and Ziggy, who is 8 months, this is what this political revolution is all about. For our mamas, and our grandmamas, and our granddaddies, and our daddies, this is what this revolution is all about. And baby, for ourselves. Because isn't it something in this country that we have gone so far that the whole notion of everyday working people from all walks of life do not deserve to live a good life in the hearts and the minds of some who have rigged the system. But I am here to testify on this Saturday afternoon in Henderson that what the people want is simple. They want an America as good as its promise. So it's not too much to ask for clean water. It's not too much to ask for clean air. It's not too much to ask for clean food. It's not too much to ask that we understand that we are the stewards of Mother Earth and we have not been treating her well, and that it is our moral obligation to take care of Mother Earth. It's not too much to ask. So can I just, Senator Sanders has been on assignment for a very long time. And the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said that longevity has its place. Henderson, I know that a whole bunch of folks have come around to the idea of health care for all, but the visionary who stood up for this in good times and bad times, the visionary who stood up in 2016 and told the working class people from all walks of life in this country that you deserve better than what you have been getting was Senator Bernie Sanders. And we got the receipts. See, a visionary is never understood in their time. Not only did he, and sisters and brothers, tell me if you remember this. I remember at one of the debates in 2016, and the moderator asked the question about what is the biggest threat to this country. And Senator Bernie Sanders said the biggest threat is climate change. Folks looked at him like he was, well, you know what I mean. But here we are, fast forward in 2019, and people are starting to get it. See, a visionary stands up even when it is not comfortable to stand up, and that is what we have in Senator Bernie Sanders. He's pushing for the people who need. And Henderson, none of us begrudge anybody for being wealthy, but what we are sick and tired of is excessive greed and exploitation on our backs and on our necks. You deserve better. Senator said, I'm feeling this thing. I mean, he's been standing up. And not just what he did as a young man, not just that the fact that his lived experience, having a father who came to this country from Poland as a 17-year-old with no money while his family was killed in the Holocaust, having a mother who died at the young age of 46 years old. His lived experience informs him. And not just as a 19-year-old, to my millennials who are in the house at your stage fighting against segregation in housing at the University of Chicago. He has a lived experience. Living in a rent-controlled housing and telling the story of how for his mother, she had dreamed of the day when they didn't have to live in such housing, but she never lived to see that day. I'm talking about a senator who's lived in his car before. I'm talking about somebody who understands from a deep-seated perspective what it means to be struggling in this country. I'm talking about his lived experience. And he didn't stop there. He has been on the picket line with Verizon workers, the picket line with Marriott workers, going into Canton, Mississippi, trying to help the Nissan workers there who are overwhelmingly African-American unionized, because the senator understands that unions increase the wages and conditions of workers in this country. I'm talking about his lived experience. And not something that he just came to because the polling says that it polls well. I'm talking about somebody who, in the words of Dr. Cornel West, is a long-distance runner for justice. That's what we have in Senator Bernie Sanders, somebody who is willing to put it on the line. And sisters and brothers in Henderson, in order for him to be the next president of the United States of America, he needs you, 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 he needs all of us. Because this rainbow mosaic of humanity, and when I say rainbow, I'm talking about the colors that we collectively represent, that we rise or fall together, that if we have a criminal justice system that treats black men worse than anybody else, we fall together. That we have a criminal justice system that does not treat our Hispanic and Native American brothers and sisters right, we rise and fall together. That we have a system that would dare deny folks the opportunity to vote. We rise or fall together. That if we live in a country where women still have to beg for their whole damn dollar, we rise or fall together. That if we live in a country where our sisters and brothers at the southern border who are seeking a better life are not treated with the respect that they deserve as they seek to come to this country, we rise or fall together. And for our otherly abled sisters and brothers who are left out of this debate time and time again, we must have systems in place that treat them the way that we would want to be treated. We rise or fall together. We have that in Senator Sanders. So, sisters and brothers, President Nelson Mandela once said it always seems impossible until it is done. We're going to have a whole lot of folks telling us that it cannot be done. We ask them to move the hell out of the way and let us who are willing to get it done, get it done. A good life, good jobs, standing up against Wall Street and the pharmaceutical industry. We have in Senator Bernie Sanders somebody who stared Jeff Bezos in the eyes and said, "You will raise the minimum wage." Figuratively. Said to Disney, "You will raise the minimum wage." If he can do that, as one of my colleagues said, if the senator can do that, being a senator, imagine what he can do as the next president of the United States of America. We rise or fall together. So, can you just do something for a sister? With these hands, can everyone under the sound of my voice raise your hands? Raise something for somebody else, because you are standing in the gap for the type of country that we want to live in. The mosaic of humanity is in Henderson, and with these hands, we will have Medicare for all. With these hands, we will have college for all. With these hands, we will have a country that allows the greatest number of people the opportunity to live a good life. With these hands, we will unite and push the political revolution in ways that brings transcendence to this country. And with these hands, we will elect Senator Bernie Sanders as the next president of the United States of America.
Get rid of this thing here. I got it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Nevada. It's okay. Little black eye's not going to stop me. Let me thank Dr. Harpo and the Ace Tones for their music, Lisa Kay and the Pickups for their music, Nixon for his wonderful rendition of the national anthem, Alexis Salt and Amy Villela for their wonderful comments. And let me thank Senator Nina Turner for all the work she is doing all over this country. Brothers and sisters, you are here today as part of a political revolution that is sweeping the country. The people of America, the people of Nevada, the people of Vermont are sick and tired of the status quo. They want real change, and that is what this campaign is about. Thank you so much for being here. This campaign is not only about winning the Democratic nomination. This campaign is not only about defeating Donald Trump, the most dangerous president in the modern history of America, but with your help, this campaign is about transforming our country and creating an economy and a government that work for all of us, not just the 1%. That's what this campaign is about. And today I want to be as clear as I can be in welcoming you to a campaign where the underlying principles are not going to be greed, kleptocracy, hatred, and lies. The underlying principles of our campaign and our government will not be racism, sexism, xenophobia, homophobia, or religious bigotry. The American people have had too much of that. Together, we're going to bring that to an end. Brothers and sisters, the principles of our government will be based on justice, economic justice, social justice, racial justice, and environmental justice. And let me be as clear as I can be in telling you what I understand justice to mean. It means that we will no longer allow 3 families in this country to own more wealth than the bottom half of the American people. At the same time, when the rich are becoming much richer, at the same time as nearly 20% of the children in Nevada are living in poverty, when veterans are sleeping out on the streets, and when 30 million Americans have no health insurance. And when we fight for justice, it means that we will no longer accept 46% of all new income going to the top 1%, while millions of Americans here in Nevada, in Vermont, and all over this country are forced to work 2 or 3 jobs just to survive. And brothers and sisters, right now in America, while the rich become phenomenally richer, half of the American people are living paycheck to paycheck, scared to death about what happens when their car breaks down and they can't get to work. And if they don't get to work, they get fired. If they get fired, they cannot take care of their kids. People scared to death in the wealthiest country on earth that, God forbid, their child will get sick and they can't get that kid to a doctor or a hospital. That's not justice. It is not justice when the wealthiest family in the United States, the Walton family, owns Walmart. One family is worth $170 billion. Well, if you are worth $170 billion, pay your workers a living wage. Justice is not served when the CEOs of major corporations make 300 times what their employees make. That's not justice. Justice is not served when 25 hedge fund managers on Wall Street make twice as much money as 140,000 kindergarten teachers in this country. Brothers and sisters, we are going to bring justice to this country. And by the way, when we talk about justice, we will no longer accept a situation in which our younger generation, for the first time in the modern history of our country, will have a lower standard of living than their parents if we don't turn this economy around. Can you imagine that? All of the technology, all of the increased productivity, and yet our kids stand to have a lower standard of living than their parents. I have 4 kids and 7 grandchildren. I do not believe in downward mobility. This campaign is about moving up, people up, not down. But it is not just a unfair and rigged economic system that we are going to address. It is a corrupt political system. Now, I'm an old-fashioned guy, and I believe that democracy means one person, one vote. It does not mean, when we think about the men and women who have put their lives on the line to defend democracy, many of them never returned. Democracy is not about billionaires buying elections, and we're going to overturn Citizens United. Now, as many of you will recall, when we first began this campaign, and when I came to Nevada, we campaigned all over your state, many of the ideas that we talked about, the political establishment and the media establishment, they said, hey, Bernie's ideas are crazy, they're extreme, they're radical, nobody will accept them, nobody will support them. Raising the minimum wage to a living wage, too radical. Guaranteeing health care to all as a right, too radical. Creating up to 15 million jobs by investing $1 trillion to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure, too radical. Aggressively combating climate change, too radical. Reforming our broken criminal justice systems and our broken immigration system, too radical. And imagine this, not having a super PAC to fund your campaign, much too radical. Oh my God. And then think about this one, unthinkable. Ending the power of superdelegates at the Democratic National Convention. So it seemed that all of those ideas and many more just a few years ago were considered too radical. Well, a funny thing happened during that 2016 campaign. Turns out that we won 22 states. Turns out that we received over 13 million votes. We won over 1,700 delegates to the Democratic National Convention. And I'll tell you what we accomplished together that was most important, and that is that we ended up winning more votes from young people, black and white and Latino, Native American, Asian American. than Clinton and Trump combined. And by the way, those ideas that we talked about 4 years ago that seemed so radical at that time, well, today, a majority of the American people support those ideas. And those ideas are supported by Democratic candidates from school board to President of the United States. In other words, my friends, we have come a long way in the last 4 years. The American people have made it clear they are sick and tired of billionaires running our country. They want justice. We started this campaign, we started those ideas, we brought forth that vision 4 years ago. Now is the time to complete that journey. And so today, we are going to fight for those ideas that the majority of the American people want. And today, we say to the private health insurance companies, whether you like it or not, the United States is going to join every other major country on earth and guarantee health care to all people as a right. I am sick and tired of talking to Americans who cannot afford to go to the doctor, who are coming out of the hospital and have to go bankrupt in order to pay those bills. The goal of health care is to provide quality care to all people. The goal of health care is not to make insurance companies rich and to provide outrageous compensation packages for the CEOs of those companies. Listen to this. This is why we have a dysfunctional healthcare system. In 2017, the top 65 healthcare CEOs made $1.7 billion in compensation. And that included over $83 million for the guy who runs United Health. We are going to invest healthcare doctors in disease prevention. We're going to invest healthcare dollars in giving us the doctors that we need in communities that today don't have enough doctors. We are going to invest in nurses, and we are going to invest in rural clinics. And we are going to end a system whose main function is to provide enormous profits and compensation packages for those who lead the healthcare industry. That is going to end. So we say to the healthcare industry and the insurance companies, whether you like it or not, we are going to pass a Medicare for all single-payer program. And today we say to the pharmaceutical industry, it's one way of phrasing it, but we are certainly going to say to them that you are no longer going to rip off the American people. We are tired of paying by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. The drug companies make enormous profits. Top 5 companies made $50 billion in profits, and yet 1 out of 5 Americans cannot afford the medicine they need. How crazy is that? And today we say to those employers who pay their workers starvation wages, whether you like it or not, we are going to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, $15 an hour. It is not a radical idea to say that anyone in America who works 40 hours a week should not be living in poverty. And by the way, we're going to make it easier for workers to join unions, not harder. Unions help create the middle class of this country, and we're going to see more and more workers have the right to join unions. And today we say to the American people that we are going to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure. In America, our roads and our bridges, our wastewater plants, our water systems, our rail system should not be crumbling. This is America. We should have the strongest infrastructure in the world. People should know that when they turn on their water faucet, the water that comes out is drinkable and clean. Not a radical idea. And when we rebuild our infrastructure, we're going to create up to 15 million good-paying jobs. One of the areas that the United States government significantly ignores are the needs of children. Children are our future. Children are vulnerable. And yet in America, we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth. We have a proliferation of billionaires, and yet we have children in this country who don't have enough food to eat. We're going to change that. And one profound way that we are going to change that is we are going to allow every working parent in this country to know that their kid will be able to go to high-quality, affordable childcare, universal childcare for our children. And today we say again to the young people in our country, we want you to get the best education that you can. We live in a competitive global economy. Most of the good jobs require high-quality education. You should not have to go deeply into debt to get a damn education. And that is why we will make public colleges and universities tuition-free and significantly lower student debt in this country. And today we say to our senior citizens, we know that many of you are trying to get by on $12,000 or $13,000 a year Social Security. Nobody can do that. My Republican colleagues in Congress, they want to cut Social Security. Well, we've got some bad news for them. We're not going to cut Social Security. We are going to raise Social Security benefits. And today we say to Donald Trump and the fossil fuel industry that climate change is not a hoax, but is a massive threat, an existential threat to our country and the entire planet. And whether the fossil fuel industry likes it or not, we are going to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. And let me be as clear as I can be. We have a moral responsibility to make sure that the planet we are leaving our children and our grandchildren is a country and a planet that is healthy and habitable. This is not a choice. You don't have an option. We're not going to debate whether the planet is healthy and habitable for our kids. We are going to take on the fossil fuel industry. And today we say to the prison industrial complex that whether they like it or not, we are going to bring about real criminal justice reform. We are going to end the international embarrassment of the United States having more people in jail than any other country on earth. 2 million people. We are going to invest in our young people, in jobs and education, not jails and incarceration. And when we are talking about criminal justice reform, we're talking about no more private prisons and detention centers. No more war on drugs. Too many lives have been destroyed when people get criminal records for possessing marijuana. We're going to end the absurd situation in which today hundreds of thousands of people right now are behind bars for the crime of being poor and not being able to afford cash bail. We're going to end cash bail. You know, and when you talk about criminal justice reform, it's not just the absurd situation that every year tens and tens of thousands of people get criminal records for possessing marijuana. But the other side of that equation is that when the crooks on Wall Street help destroy our economy and the state of Nevada through their illegal activity, not one of those Wall Street CEOs went to jail. So we have a radical idea that when we talk about criminal justice, it means justice for all, whether you're rich or you're poor. And today, we say to the American people that we are going to end the demonization of undocumented immigrants in this country. We are going to pass, and this is long, long overdue, we are going to pass comprehensive immigration reform and provide a path towards citizenship. And as soon as we can, we're going to provide legal status to the 1.8 million young people in the DACA program. And we are going to develop a humane border policy for those who seek asylum. America is not about snatching babies from their mothers. That is going to end. And today we say to the top 1% and the large profitable corporations, people who have never had it so good, corporate profits soaring, the rich getting much richer, that under a Bernie Sanders administration, we're going to end the massive tax breaks and loopholes that they currently enjoy. Amazon, as you know, is one of the largest, most profitable corporations in America. Anybody here know how much Amazon paid in taxes last year? And it is owned by the wealthiest guy in the world. And it's not just Amazon, it's Netflix, General Motors, many other corporations. The idea that we have veterans in this country sleeping out on the street and major corporations not paying a nickel in federal income tax is absurd, it is unjust. Together, we're going to end that, And we are going to make the large corporations and the wealthy start paying their fair share of taxes. Thank you. But let me say something. Like everybody else, I have my share of ego. And I appreciate the Bernie. But let me say this on a very serious note. This really is not about Bernie, and I'll tell you why. It is about all of us. And I'll tell you why. I will tell you why, frankly. And not too many politicians or public officials will tell you. And it's a sad truth, but it is a truth. And here's the truth. The truth is that no president, now, no matter how honest or well-intentioned he or she may be, cannot do it alone. Because the powers that be on Wall Street, powers that be in Washington, have so much money and so much power. And I'm talking about Wall Street and the insurance companies and the drug companies. These people are so powerful that the only way we bring about change, the only way we effectively take them on, is when tens of millions of people stand up together. Now, all of you know, if you've studied American history, that real change never occurs from the top on down. It's always from the bottom on up. That's what the trade union movement was about. That is what the civil rights movement was about. That's what the women's movement was about. That's what the gay movement is about. Nobody on top does it alone. And when you're dealing with people who have incredible power, incredible wealth, the only way we are able to defeat them is when millions of people stand up and say, get out of the way. We are bringing justice to this country. Brothers and sisters, we are going to defeat Donald Trump. Not because I am a billionaire or because we have a super PAC funding this election. We're going to win this election because we will put together the strongest grassroots coalition in the history of American politics. Donald Trump spends his life in a very ugly way. And that is, for the first time, there have been conservative presidents, there have been liberal presidents. He is unique. He is unique in trying to divide our people up by the color of their skin, by where they were born, by their sexual orientation, by their religion. That's what Donald Trump believes. Well, we believe exactly the opposite. We are going to bring our people together, black and white and Latino, Native American, Asian American, gay and straight, young and old, men and women, native born and immigrant. We're going to bring our people together for an unprecedented grassroots effort, and I am happy to tell you that we have signed up more than 1 million people who are prepared to work on this campaign. And I know something about grassroots politics. That's what I've been doing my whole life. See, I do not come from a super wealthy family like Donald Trump, a family which gave him millions of dollars to build luxury skyscrapers, casinos, and country clubs. I did not come from a family that sent me to an elite private school. I was educated in public schools. I did not come from a family that gave me a $200,000 allowance every year beginning at the age of 3. As I recall, my allowance was 25 cents a week. You know, all of you will remember that just a few months ago, Donald Trump boasted about shutting down the government and leaving 800,000 federal employees without income to pay their bills. You all remember that? Now, I guess when you are a billionaire, you may not understand what it is like to be in a family that lives paycheck to paycheck, needs money to pay the mortgage, needs money to put gas in the car, and to pay the light bills. My family lived paycheck to paycheck. I know where I come from, and that is something I will never forget. You know, when Donald Trump campaigned in Nevada and all over this country, he talked about being a different type of Republican, a friend of working families. You remember he said, I am not going to cut Medicare and Medicaid or Social Security. Well, I know I will shock all of you to tell you that Donald Trump lied. On May 7th, 2015, in a tweet, Trump said, and I quote, I was the first and only potential GOP candidate to state there will be no cuts to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, end of quote. Pretty clear. Donald Trump told the American people he was not going to cut Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Well, fast forward to the budget that Trump introduced just last week. That budget calls for a cut of $1.5 trillion in Medicaid, $845 billion in cuts to Medicare, and $25 billion in cuts to Social Security. Do you know what $1.5 trillion cut to Medicaid means? It means that for all those families that have loved ones in nursing homes, with $1.5 trillion cut, you're not going to be able to keep those loved ones in nursing homes. And you know what a $845 billion cut to Medicare means? It means for those seniors who are struggling with health care today, it's only going to be worse. During the campaign, Donald Trump said, as you'll all remember, that he was going to provide health insurance for everybody with much lower deductibles. Well, guess what? He lied again. The budget that he just presented would end the Affordable Care Act, throw 32 million people off of the health insurance they have. It would allow for states to substantially raise premiums for older Americans and allow states to substantially weaken protections for pre-existing conditions like cancer or diabetes. Trump's budget is a budget which will make it harder for our kids to get a decent education, for our young people to go to college, harder for working families to get the health care they need, harder to protect the air we breathe and the water that we drink.
It'll make him richer.
Well, that's another story. But Trump's budget is basically about the Robin Hood principle in reverse. It takes from the poor and working people and gives more tax breaks to the rich and large corporations. Brothers and sisters, there's going to be a lot of campaign rhetoric, and you're going to hear a lot of it here in Nevada. A lot of folks are going to come through your state. So what I want to do is to be as clear as I can be in telling you what a Sanders administration would be about. First of all, in a nation which has so many needs, when we have a huge amount of work to do in childcare, in healthcare, in taking care of our seniors, in transforming our energy system, in rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure, a Sanders administration will guarantee a stable job for anybody in this country who is ready to work. At a time when rural America is struggling, and at a time when urban gentrification and the high cost of housing is impacting so many people, millions of Americans paying 40, 50, 60% of their limited incomes on housing, we are going to build the affordable housing this country desperately needs. When we are in the White House, we will move aggressively to end the epidemic of gun violence in this country and pass the common sense gun safety legislation the American people want. When we are in the White House, we are going to protect a woman's right to control her own body. This is a decision not for the federal government, not for the state government, not for the local government. This is a decision for the women of America themselves. This campaign that we are waging is a struggle not just against Donald Trump. This struggle is about taking on the most powerful institutions that control the economic and political life of our nation. That's what this campaign is about. Now, not many people talk about it, but I will talk about it. I'll talk about it today, and I'll talk about it all over this country. Because I am talking about the power of Wall Street, where you have 6 financial institutions that have assets equivalent to 54% of the GDP of America. You got that? 6 financial institutions. And that is why, together, we're going to break up these large financial institutions. We're talking about the insurance companies and the drug companies and the military-industrial complex, where year after year we're spending $700 billion on the military. That's too much. We're talking about taking on agribusiness, the prison industrial complex, the fossil fuel industry, and a corrupt campaign finance system that enables billionaires to buy elections. In other words, and this is the important point that I want to make to you today, and I don't know that anybody else is going to make it for you. It's not just about winning an election. Obviously, together, we've got to win the Democratic nomination. Obviously, we have got to defeat Donald Trump. But we have got to do more than that. We have got to transform this country. This is the wealthiest country in the history of the world. We should not have outrageously high levels of poverty, millions of people without health insurance, kids not able to go to college. We should not have a crumbling infrastructure. We should lead the world in transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel. So this campaign is asking you, we're here to ask you, help me win the Democratic nomination. Help me defeat Donald Trump. But I will need you the day after the election, because our job is to take on powerful special interests and to transform this country. Brothers and sisters, we've got an enormous amount of work in front of us. Thank you. All right, we all have to be ready. This is all of our fights. This is the fight for our kids and our grandchildren. It's the fight for women. It's the fight for minority communities. It's the fight for justice. We're going to reclaim America's mantle in the world as being the leader in the fight for justice domestically and internationally. You are looking at somebody who will not be having kind words for authoritarian leaders all over the world. Will be a government encouraging democracy and human rights all over the world. Now, brothers and sisters, Trump is about dividing our people up and hoping that he can gain votes by getting people to hate this group or hate that group. Our campaign is entirely different. It's exactly the opposite. It's about bringing our people together. And this is what I believe from the bottom of my heart. And that is, if we stand together as black and white, as Latino, Native American, Asian American, if we stand together as gay and straight, if we stand together as men and women, if we stand together as native-born and immigrant, if we stand together as rural and urban, north, south, east, and west, if we stand together, there is nothing that we can accomplish. Our opponents have endless supplies of money, and I mean endless supplies of money, all right? You know what the insurance companies have and the drug companies in Wall Street. I'm talking about literally unlimited amounts of money. Now, they have the money, and they got the power. We have something that they don't have and never will have. We have the people. And if we understand also that there is no such thing as red state or blue state, but every state in this country exists where a majority of working families are struggling to create a better life for their kids. And those are the people we represent. So, brothers and sisters, let me conclude by saying this. This is a pivotal and unprecedented moment in the history of our country. We could either move to a vibrant democracy where we end voter suppression, where we end billionaires buying elections, or we can move to an authoritarian type government where people of color and poor people will find it increasingly difficult to vote. We can move to an economy where all people have decent jobs, where health care is a right, where we have strong child care, where our kids, regardless of their income, can get a higher education, or we can continue an economy where the rich become much richer, and we have by far the most unequal distribution of wealth and income. That is the choice in front of us. Today, I urge you to stand up and fight with us to create the kind of country that you and I know we can become. Thank you all very much.
The President of the United States in contempt. They hold the Republican Party in contempt. They hold the Democratic Party in contempt. And no, I won't yield. The American people want to see our kids educated. Let's have the guts to give some leadership to this country.
Yeah. All I hear is a lot of rhetoric, a bunch of sellouts still trying to be the president, lining up their pockets with that Wall Street money. Now they trying to throw dirt until we all get muddy, but I'ma make them quack, make them squeal.